Welcome to your Morning Cup with iBenz Academy. I'm Kara.
And I'm Ash.
And we're Kash.
We didn't even practice that. This is just what happens.
Yeah, we just do things. Yeah.
So we just finished our second lab for the Power Objects workshop. And oh my God.
That was amazing.
It's so amazing.
It's
the
so
energy
cool.
is just so incredible.
It's so cool.
One of the things that really brought up for us in this experience is working with expanded awareness, right? And we talk about expanded awareness, I think, probably several times on this podcast.
Yes.
And in one of our prior episodes, episode 37?
32.
32?
37's in the future.
Don't ask me numbers.
She's remembering the future.
The episode 32, we talked about shrinking of our awareness, right? And what is that? And what to do with it, what to do when that's happening for you. And this episode, we're going to talk about what is expanded awareness and how to expand your awareness.
And why, too. Why would you even want to bother kind of thing.
Yeah. So what's expanded awareness?
When your awareness expands.
Yes.
That's not very helpful, is it?
So it's basically our awareness from a singular perspective, right? As me, Ashley, right now, I have my awareness, my viewpoint of the world and my experience. Expanded awareness is when that expands beyond just my singular, I, me, myself, this moment, right here, right now, into something beyond that. So, go ahead.
I have a very practical example.
Great.
So, if you've ever done meditation, you might have had this experience of be conscious, become aware of your breath, breathing in and out, maybe the air going through your nostrils and coming out your mouth, that kind of thing. Or maybe you become aware of your fingers, and then you become aware of your legs and your hand, or your shins and your toes. So expansion of awareness in a micro sense is having the awareness and the feeling of your fingers and your toes all at the same time. So it's you're aware of both, right? Not just your fingers, but everything else too. So that's at the very small level. But at a much bigger level, it could be even as big as all that's happening on the planet right now, right? Whether it's the birds and the trees, or the insects, the humans, the cities, the oceans, right? It's kind of like that. It's what part is, your shoulders, what part of your knees, and you're aware of all of that happening at once, and yet it's multiple perspectives. So that's one example.
That's a great example. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's infinite, right? It can be really shrunk, or it can be super expanded beyond anything even that we could maybe put words to, in a state of oneness in the universe and whatnot.
It's unlimited, truly.
It's unlimited.
Yeah.
So we've also talked about in this podcast how when we connect with others, it's already once we start sharing and connecting with others, we are expanding our awareness, right? So why would we want to expand our awareness?
Well, for one thing, when we have an expansion of awareness, we get new inputs of data and perspectives that we otherwise wouldn't have had. And this is a very good thing, right? It's biodiversity in a garden is really good, right? When you have lots of different plants helping each other, interconnected and working with each other, they usually do a lot better growing, and they're more vibrant and healthy than if it was monoculture, right? Just one plant. It's kind of like that, except for your personal perspective or experience in life. Because when we work in silos, and get tunnel vision on things, that can be limiting, and it's not always a good thing. In fact, it's usually not, I would say.
And it can really be one of those experiences where it helps to, let's say, enhance the experience that we're having. It helps to increase our ability to increase the chi, the power that we have to create, to do, to be in a state of high frequency and respond, right? So another example to add on to what you've shared is, when I'm working on a project or I'm doing work, I get very focused. I could sit in front of my computer and work for hours on end and just be in what I'm doing, and very detail oriented with it. And from that perspective, that's a really shrunken awareness state. Yeah. But when I expand my awareness and I set up myself up for success, maybe through setting an alarm periodically every hour to, okay, get up, move my body. I then start connecting with my body and I realize, oh, I'm thirsty, or oh, I need to use the restroom, or, I'm hungry. Things that, because I was such shrunk in awareness, even just awareness of my physical body and what was needed, what my physical body needed at the moment, got suppressed because it wasn't in my radar, right? So expansion of awareness helps to bring other things into our radar.
Yep.
So it can also alter our perceived importances in the moment. Let's say we're trying to decide, what are we going to focus on? Like, what's the next course we're going to make at iBenz Academy? If we just look at our individual experiences and Inelia's, we might have one idea, but then if we expand our awareness to include the entire human collective of Earth and maybe Gaia, then all of a sudden we have a new perspective of what might be more relevant to this time and space for the human collective, offering the classes that we offer.
Yep, exactly. And another thing to keep in mind is that when we work with multiple perspectives, literally other awareness points in our field, which translated is multiple people collaborating together in a group, it enhances pretty much everything. So this is a big reason why at iBenz Academy we have a learning experience that involves the group at its core, because quite frankly, we learn a lot better in groups, and there's tons of research and data out there that shows this is empirical evidence, right? So when we learn individually in a silo, we could eventually get there, but it's going to be much slower, probably not as interesting or fun, and it's going to be harder, quite frankly, because when we see other people in the same situation that we're in, learning at the same time that we're learning, we have that expansion of awareness, the multiple perspectives, and we learn from each other. And we take things into consideration that we would have never even thought of. So one example is like with the Power Objects workshop, like we've been creating Power Objects for a couple of years now. And even just in like one workshop, we are getting so many new ideas for how to create power objects, like how to incorporate materials or where to find materials, or even just the approach and the different intentions. And again, like we've been doing this for a while, and yet in the last 2 weeks alone, we've had like more ideas of what's possible than doing it just, the two of us as a small group. So that's pretty cool, right? So that's why with our workshops, we have this group dynamic, because it literally makes the learning experience richer, more beneficial to everyone, because we benefit from each other's insights and experiences. And, it's connection. It's fun. And it feels good to not do it alone.
Absolutely. So, Kara, what are some of your best practices to expanding your awareness? How do you do it in your day-to-day life?
Well, it's super basic, but a big one is the daily practice. So what is the daily practice? Basically, when we say this, it's referring to making sure every day you spend time in an altered state of awareness, meaning you get out of your typical, normal, walking about life kind of thing. And one of my favorite ways to do this is to listen to pretty much any meditation by Inelia Benz, but there are some in particular that are extremely effective in expansion of awareness. And one of my personal favorites is the connection with the high frequency human collective. Because when you go into this altered state, in this meditative state, and Inelia guides you through the steps through this meditation, we become our bigger selves, like literally our expanded selves, right? Where we are the collective and we're experiencing in that bigger collective state. And it's like so nice just to like step out of the like shrunken awareness that can happen on the day-to-day, especially with like work or projects or like doing the dishes, just like normal life stuff. And even just spending like 5 or 10 minutes a day in that altered expanded awareness is so beneficial. It helps almost like remove the fog, the veil of forgetfulness, a reminder of like, who we really are, and that this is, you know, a game. It's an experience that we're having in this matrix, and a reminder of doing that, or having that reminder every day, is really beneficial because it helps keep my frequency high, at least, which is great. How about you? What's your favorite tool?
Well, I agree with the daily practice. I think being a student of Inelia's for so long, that's something that got incorporated. And even before that, I was doing yoga and meditation, but making sure there's a daily practice of expansion of awareness, basically. Like that, to me, I think is... it's so critical. And
it's crucial.
It is really cool to kind of have that throughout my day. I'm like, wait, have I, you know, if I'm out of my routine, did I expand my awareness today? And I'll like look back, oh yeah, actually I did. Like,
yes.
You know, that's great. Because it's something just to be natural, flexing in and out, moving in and out of that expanded awareness, that shrunken awareness, right? And then with it, I would say my favorite tool to use to expand my awareness is in the Ascension 101 course, and it's the last unit of the oneness exercise. And oh my gosh,
so
like I feel like, especially when, you know, we talked about, again, if you will link it, the last podcast around shrunken awareness, and when your awareness shrinks, using that meditation when you're in a state of awareness shrinking is so beneficial, because again, it's like things that seem important, things that are just like kind of taking over your view or your awareness, all of a sudden when you get this larger perspective, it's like it's perspective. You tap into information and data and viewpoints that maybe you weren't able to see before because it was such a shrunken awareness. All of a sudden now you can kind of see 360 versus just like this like 90-degree viewpoint. Yeah. So I would say the oneness exercise is my favorite.
Super good.
There's a number of them. The Connecting with the Human Collective, that one is a great one. But even just simple, sometimes if it's more of a matter of like, I'm out and about and I don't have a chance to just sit down and start meditating, connecting with nature, connecting with Gaia, like instantly, that always helps too. So connecting with the ground where my feet are, breathing in the air, noticing the trees and the plants and starting to connect with them around me, connecting with other humans. That's like another really great way that I love to be able to expand my awareness and get our perspective on things. Sharing, opening up about, could be mundane things in life, or maybe like interesting topics, things that you're exploring or curious about. But getting our awareness through conversation, through connection, time shared together, and time shared in nature. Oh my gosh. I'd say those are all like my top ways of expanding my awareness.
It's so good. And you can literally connect with nature and Gaia anywhere.
Anywhere.
Like grab your pet or a plant, or like you said, just become conscious of the air you're breathing, right? And how that's connected with pretty much everything else on this planet, right? It's just so instant if you allow it to be. And that can be a really good way to help yourself if you're in a tight spot, right?
So our recommendation is get a daily practice going.
Yes, it's so critical. And it's really important to help you keep your frequency high, especially as we're going through a split, right? So be diligent, have a daily practice, get one if you don't have one, and it doesn't need to be complicated. Like 5 minutes a day, that's it. Just 5 minutes, and it will do wonders for you.
Get started there. The more time you add, I think it will also benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
Maybe most an hour a day. It doesn't have to be like overly complicated, but start out with 5 minutes, slowly start to increase it, and start to just notice the benefits and the changes that it has for you.
And expansion of awareness can be a very effective tool, both a practical tool and a mystical tool. So if you're, let's say, a business person or an artist, or, any type of craftsmanship where you are working with the human collective at some level, which chances are you are, if you expand your awareness, and like what we were describing earlier, like if we're looking at, okay, what's the next workshop that we want to create? within that smaller awareness, we might consider, like, what does Ash want to create? What does Kara want to create? Or what does Kash want to create? But if we go bigger and tap into that larger awareness and be like, okay, what does the human collective want or need, or what would benefit our collective growth right now? Then we're working with data in a way that's much larger and ultimately more effective too, because more people are likely going to resonate with it and see it because that's what the collective requested, right? So if you're a creator, this is an amazing way to, infuse that into your business or your art. And then it becomes, about us, right? Not just about you or the me, myself, and I, but about us. And that's where usually things really take off.
Yeah, and when it comes to empowerment, Inelia's talked about being the author of our own lives, right? Being the authority. And when our awareness is shrunk, it's easy sometimes to lose that perspective to where there's so much data coming in from like television, the news, a newspaper, your family, your friends, and it could be easy to just take what people say and let that dictate your life or dictate how you feel about something or the decisions that you're going to make. But when we expand our awareness, we're actually also empowering ourselves to be able to look at the entire picture and make an assessment and make choices from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. And that, what you said earlier too about moving from that like shrunken awareness to the expansion to shrunk, like all of this is good. That flow is really important, because if you're like constantly in an expanded state of awareness, there are people like that in society who are just constantly like that. I think it's really common in India, right? I forget what they're called. Do you remember what they're called? They're like avatars, right? And they're just constantly in an altered state, and they have like people to support them and make sure they're fed and all these things. And
yeah, like they're sages, or there's probably a specific word maybe to what you're talking about. It depends on the practice.
Yeah, that's just one example. And some people can spend time doing that, right? But chances are, if you're watching this podcast, you're in the Western world, right? And we have the cultural realities of the Western world too. So it's good for us to flow in between both of those. Yeah. The shrunken, the expansion, and having tools to help us get there too.
And we also have things like our pets. Like we actually have a Michi who's accompanying us here in this room, who she's expanding our awareness to let us know that there's things going on outside.
Yes, there's a truck driving by.
Yeah. There's deliveries happening, so it's like every moment there's opportunity to expand